y'all. But anyway, in a related story, Russia apparently urged China to dump its Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac bonds in 2008 in a bid to force a bailout of the largest U.S. mortgage finance companies, former Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson said. This news comes from Bloomberg. This is interesting to me. This is very interesting to me for this specific reason. It's the same thing we did to the Russians back in the 80s. And I've said for many years, I've told people, I've said over the air, I have it on record, the Russians are going to do to us as we did to them back then. We brought down the Soviet Union, lock, stock, and barrel, drove them into utter bankruptcy through the Cold War spending and through piratic banking that we were doing, brought them to their knees financially, and that caused the collapse of the Soviet Union into what it is now. Putin, since he has been in power, has been the guy who most likely, and I believe he is very likely, the next Lenin, the next Stalin. Don't know that he's going to be as cruel as them, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I know that he's much more nationalist than either one of them ever was. And he is also a former KGB agent. And so this guy has the mind, he has the ability, he has the training, he has the wherewithal to be able to get in there and really screw with us. He knows what he's doing. All along, I've believed that the whole fall of our economic system was not just from internal sources. It's still a Cold War. It's not necessarily a Cold War of nuclear missiles pointed at each other and 0 hour and all that kind of stuff. It's a cold financial war, which can be even more devastating than a shooting war. You can bring a country to their knees. And that's one of the things that Sun Tzu teaches in The Art of War, is before you go in and physically attack your enemy, you need to weaken them. Never attack an equal opponent, ever. You know, there's this whole charade, this facade of equality, of the gentleman's war, of going face to face, mano a mano. Well, you know what? That's a pretty stupid tactic to use in combat. I'll just be flat out blunt with you. That's dumb. You don't want to put two equal great powers against each other and send them out to fight. You know why? Because there will be hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of dead before the victor stands up. No, the way that you win against your enemy, the way that you really fight isn't fair. You cheat. You go in and you stomp them. You hit them when they're not looking, and when they turn around, you hit them hard when they're not expecting it. And you keep hitting them until they go down. Now, in the case of what's going on right now, in the case of how we beat the Soviets, you notice how we ran them into the ground. We destroyed the Soviet Union not by physically attacking them. We never invaded their countries. Yeah, we sent special forces to Afghanistan and Eastern Europe and places like that, Central Asia, and we really, we screwed with them, but we didn't outright go face-to-face in a war with them. Instead, we used the banking system and we brought them down like a great big Al Capone. We busted them on money. They ran out of money. Totally. Look at what's going on now. And look at the complacency that's going on in Washington about this whole thing. You don't hear this talk going on in the national media.